Hence, depending upon the quality of the soil of the site. Then how many foliage trees are there? Small trees are there. Is there any water resource near the building or within the site or within the plot? Or number of mature trees? We preferably we do not cut mature trees, but small trees or small foliage trees will be cut down for construction of building. And then considering the sun path according to the movement of sun on the particular given site and direction of wind. So four parameters which are we are going to consider: the orientation of sun or sun path, wind direction, nearby surrounding buildings or we can say neighborhood, walkable distance areas, transportation routes, approach or access to the site, ground or type of a site. For example, it's a hilly area site or a contoured site or a flat site or a soft soil site. The typology of the soil, its detail, these are just analyzed. They are not testing or they will not involved in this process. Then available vegetation and water resources if nearby available within the site. So the next part is regarding synthesis, evaluation and design. Most importantly, the synthesis part is actually the functional analysis and allocation of the functional components within the building. Functional components within the building, function basically refers to the purpose for which building is designed. And if we talk about a residential building, then functions will be bedroom, drawing room, dressing areas, living room, dining room, guest rooms, powder room, as well as bathrooms or any other green area or recreational area if attached to it. So the organization of these spaces and how actually they will be placed within the building. This part refers to the functional analysis along with the sizes of those rooms and their interrelationship. Then ultimately, after placing them and organizing the functions into the desired and as per standards and as per needs of the client, those functions were adjusted in the plan form, and ultimately from the adjustment of those functions we will find out the physical 3D form of the building. Also, that we can also define a specific concept or specific element relevant to that 3D physical form or even with the planning. For example, concept, if we talk about architectural concept, is the fundamental or backbone of architectural design process. If you want to design a house like a traditional house, you can add a courtyard, the component of a traditional house. You can add arches, you can add verandas, you can add sometimes some domical structures or give it a touch of a typical traditional haveli. On the other hand, if you want a modern house, you will use glass, you will prefer to use concrete or sometimes brick, provide the brick with a modern style. So even the concept behind a design, the concept sometimes refer implemented only on the 3D physical form, but mostly concept has a very strong impact on the spatial organization of internal functions as well. After the synthesis part, we move towards the evaluation part. Evaluation means providing with the alternate solution. For instance, the initial demand of the client was to provide two solutions. One will be the modern design of the house and other will be the traditional design of the house. So these are the two alternate products or alternate process with different solutions. After discussion with the client and his demands, we are going to select one of the proposed solution that you have provided for the finalization of that product. It will be then refined, and its internal and external parameters will be further improved, so that ultimately we can design the drawings. The final output is in the form of 3D physical form, but before converting any concept, any idea, any building, we need to convert it into proper set of drawings, like its plans, elevations, sections, 3D forms, its working drawings, its services drawings. Mostly up till working drawings, the work of the architect would be done, and its structural proposal. So let's see some of the examples of synthesis, evaluation, and design. The first thing is regarding the concept. This is one of the building, Michael Leachin Crystal, constructed in Toronto, Canada. The form is just a concept of a Toronto rooms, or we can say it is actually inclined tent-like or triangular structure, from which its form is actually evolved and then ultimately transformed into its 3D physical form. The next thing regarding synthesis is the creating the relationship. For example, if you are designing a performance house or an auditorium, you have to provide a performance space. Then there should be gallery for the viewers. There should be backstage areas or costume changing areas. There will be, similarly, if you are designing a shopping mall, the mall area, shopping area will be definitely the center part, and then its allied services, like sometimes kids play area, the parking lot, any area for loading and unloading and receiving of the goods for the plaza. So these areas are placed in relation to one another. If we talk about a general office in the plaza that is actually handling those goods, we have to make a relationship between the relationship matrices. So these are just the bubble diagrams for the organization of spaces, that which component will be placed nearer to or adjacent to other function, or which function will be placed relatively away from the desired function. For example, there is a waiting area for people, there is a reception area, then after the reception area there will be a president room. The president room do not require any direct relation with the supply room. He can move, or mechanical room, he can move, and if it's a place at a distance or they are not directly attached, it can work. Then a conference room, marketing receptionist room, some restroom or break room. So these are the few rooms that will be required for the administration of a plaza, and even if there is an office building. So we have to define that which room will actually very close to the president room, and which function or which room should be away. For example, a president room should be near to the conference room, and his marketing officer sitting should be near, so that they can communicate immediately with one another, while the break room and restrooms will be comparatively away. These are also one of the form, we can say, when we talk about manual drawings, we mostly use bubble diagrams. But when we shift to the software AutoCAD, instead of bubble diagrams, we prefer to draw block diagram comparatively, because the main tool used in AutoCAD is the line tool. So block diagrams are having the same purpose, just like of the bubble diagram. We have placed a lobby area. Lobby is near to the dining area. There is a shop at the front. Then the kitchen area, which is close to the next dining room. Similarly, we are providing with the, if it's an office, so there is an office receptionist area, the president room, the conference room, waiting area, receptionist. This diagram is very much relevant to the previously shown relationship matrix. This relationship matrix. According to that, we have designed this block diagram. Similarly, this is also one of the alternate solution in the form of block diagram. Block diagram having we have done with the calculation of the size of the room, and the size of the block is mostly relatively the block size is proportionate to the size of the calculated size. Then after your solution, before providing the block diagrams are the initial sketch for making any final form or final drawings of any building. So final drawings are in the form of dimensional plans like working plan, architectural space plan, elevations and sections, and then we render them and give them, this is the elevation view, the front elevation of the building, and this is one of the interior view for further better understanding of design. After completing our two-dimensional drawings in form of plans, elevations and sections, we shift towards the interiors and exterior views of the building. This is one of the composed sheet that shows your design concept, analysis, set of drawings within the particular project. So briefly, we can say the design process is initially starts from the project brief and programming, then the development of the design, and ultimately we got the product in the form of drawings, and lastly we execute them in the form of 3D buildings. So let's start with the next part, architectural design approaches. How actually you are going to work in the design process, or through which way you are actually going to conduct your architectural design process. So these four approaches are very common to get to find the approach of your idea and the solution for making any design of a building. The common problem right after every project brief for all students, even for all architects, is that where should I begin? Mostly for the beginners. Then how I am going to explain what I have designed and what are the foundations or what are the basic parameters on the basis of which I am going to explain that this is why this particular design is formulated or proposed. There are several approaches to design. Let's break down. The first one is very simple, providing with the project brief, analysis of the site and building, providing some nearby calculations, sizes. Then definitely after this, I am going to formulate my idea or concept and solution after combining all these features to ultimately get the final design of the building. So according to approaches, we have four approaches in architectural design process. The first one is the conceptual approach to resolve any problem. The second one is the issue-based approach for resolving the problem. Then to provide the solution of any particular issue in any project, we sometimes use design theories, and if the approach 1, 2, 3, we don't find them to fit in or to give the proper solution, then we amalgamate approach number 2 with the approach number 3. That will be issue-based plus design theory will be combined approach in the fourth architectural design process approach. So these are the 4 ways through which we can see that any architectural problem could be resolved. The first one is the concept. The conceptual one always use the keywords. These keywords can be relevant to the use of the building, or these keywords relevant to the site. Sometimes the shape of the building is based on those specific keywords. For example, I want to design a resort or a hotel near the seafront. If I want to design a hotel near the seafront, first thing comes to my mind might be the wave, waterway, or sometimes fish is a very common sea animal that comes to the mind, or the shape of the building inspired from the fish fin or the features of the fish or a snail. So I'm just talking about the sea life or aquatic life. So you can take the inspiration even from an octopus. So these are the keywords. Then the second one is the issue based, solving current problems and site issue through design. Describing the current problem with the site. Issue based design mostly describes that which problem you are actually going to face, and through design you are resolving that particular problem. Design theory based on architectural design theory, applying a particular take on a site, for example, specific type of architectural style or philosophy we are using. I will show you some examples of design theory with pictures. Then combining the second one and the third one. It is to apply the theory as a solution to any resolved problem at site. So let's discuss the first approach, that is conceptual approach. In conceptual approach, the technique of approach is using the keywords, bombastic words, and ideation of your design depends upon the form or shape, basically based on those keywords. Let's take an example. The site of my building is in an area where there is so much flooding, and at the same time the site experiences heavy rainfall time to time. So one thing which comes to my mind as a keyword to protect the building from heavy rainfall is the cover of umbrella, and I may name the house on this basis as a liquid repeller, just because the purpose of umbrella is to save you from the water or any liquid. So what we can say, concept is an idea. So this umbrella is actually the concept, that is a thought that is actually forming the backbone and foundation of the design project. Shape of the building, and when it derives forward, it becomes the force and identity behind project progress and consistently consulted throughout at every stage of development. So you have to deal with this form on every stage of development. In an example, after a brief visit to a site, you heard that a site is constantly flooding by rainfall. So this was my problem which I have shown you previously in the pictorial form. Literally, by associating these factors, the keyword that comes to the mind is there rather one is the flood and other is the rain. So therefore design will be here to save you from the rain. And the most common way to save yourself from a rain is umbrella. Then we take away the leg of the umbrella, and its upper cover is used as a roofing system. Using the shape of umbrella from above as planned, and pop in the umbrella as the main form just to stay in concept. So then we try to fit in our functions in the decided form of my concept, which is also known as function following the form. I have a concept in my mind. I have thought about that this form will be suitable as per the site constraint. So I have derived the 3D form, roughly a sketch in my mind, and then all the components within the building, if it's a house, will be fit in within that particular form. This type of approach is known as form. A function is actually following the form or form oriented approach. However, here is another problem that no matter how much the liquid is repelled from the umbrella type building or water repellent building, the flooding will remain continuous. The design is neither solving the flood problem or considering the flood as an influencing factor to the building. Also cramping in all the spaces in the building for the sake of umbrella shape. This type of approach is known as function following the form. So what could be the other solution? There could be a solution that the building is placed on a high deck, or might be the ground building is standing on the columns. In modern architecture, we will see that this concept may work in the future or not. So where do your concept mostly come from? The site, its climate, orientation, views, points, context, or history, mostly from the site analysis. Then concept can also be derived from design brief, the requirements of client, and the requirements built from the building analysis, accommodation, and the budget. For instance, we have listened about economical housing, building typology, the particular type of use. So these are the three features which build your most of the time used for conceptualization: site analysis, the design brief, and the type of the building. So what we can say that the concept is mostly affected by the context, need, form, and space. The context part is mostly related to the site part, shape of a site, number of roads accessing the site, surrounding green areas or surrounding buildings of the site, soil condition of the site, topography, whether it's a flat, it's a contour, depending upon the site. Then definitely temperature, it affects the sun, wind, humidity, sand, these parameters affect the building shape and form. Then the form and space. The form part refers to the building height, its 3D form, the colors used in, the type of structure used in, and any technical specification used for that construction of that building. The next part is regarding need part. The need part is mostly related to the area, spaces, relationship of different spaces, the needs of the user, gender. For example, if you are designing for a musician, he might need a 3D cinema theater in the basement, or he might need a music studio in the basement of his house that will be soundproof. So it's a specific activity of a specific gender. Then the budget of a client is one of the big restraint. Its time limitation is provides is likes or dislikes are very important. His vision and organization matters. So concept could be an idea, analogy. Really, we say that analogy refers to that my building will be look similar to a fish, or my son is having a heart of a heart similar. My son is as brave, just his bravery is similar to a lion. Sometimes we take metaphors. For example, my son is lion. The heart of my daughter is gold, or the form of a building will be fish. Then there will be include symbolism. For example, Statue of Liberty is the symbol of freedom. And after the finalization of your concept, you bring up the solution in the form of sketches, models, finally drawings, their details in the form of working drawings, dimensions, rendering, and 3D form or animations. Sorry. Then the elements and principles involved in the design. This will be our next lecture regarding elements and principles in architectural design. We will discuss in the coming up next week lecture in detail. So I am not explaining these terms here, but they are very significant part of any building's 3D form. So let's move towards the design approach number 2, an issue-based design approach. It requires a solving of any currently faced problem. It could be an issue of a site, it could be an issue of the neighborhood by the help of your design. And then describe that problem with the site design or user. Examples could be improving current problem. For example, I said that if the site is constantly flooding, why can't I place my building? My building will be standing on the 10 feet high column just to keep it away from the flooding on the side. Then compare with other design solution. The previous solution was that the building having a umbrella like structure, and after that I find that it is not able to still keep itself away from the flood. So I am using the solution of proposing a 4 columns or might be 8 columns below the building. Then solution is examples, previous case studies, ideas that will help to cope up with the problem, and we get the ultimately design solution. This type of approach is mostly used by an intermediate level designer. So if we begin with the address with the flooding, to resolve the issue, we can say it's an issue-based approach. Initially, I have just picked the keyword heavy rainfall. Now I am picking the key issue, that is flooding in the site. The lack of access to any one of the example is that if I'm designing a building and the building having lack of access to the disabled or lack of any communal spaces, what will be the attempt? The attempt is to resolve this issue and provide a proper access to the disabled, for example, in the form of ramps, or providing common spaces for the students within the department so that in their free time they can sit in and they can discuss their issues. So it's a core issue-based approach. We can also compare current and previous ideas with the current proposed solution. To study about the previous studies or case studies, we can also known as the precedent studies. It's a combination of issue, precedent studies, and idea in an attempt to resolve the particular issue with the help of design. The name of this attempt will also be the title. Keyword of the design will be here the keyword is issue of, faced problem, or the issue. Perhaps it might take more than several words. There is where choosing a holistic keyword to represent it really comes in handy during the presentation. The third approach is design theory or design philosophy, design based on architectural theory. Here I am showing you some pictures of the books that shows different design theories. I am just explaining one of them. One is modern architecture. After the Second World War, there is a mass destruction. So what people have to do, they have to build quickly. For this purpose, they evolved industry-based material like glass, concrete, steel, that will have to construct your buildings quickly. As a result, we find modern buildings in the form of glass, concrete, and steel as the most common material. This theory is known as modern architecture theory. Similarly, there is another theory regarding deconstruction architecture, in which instead of providing regular forms in the building, we use destructive forms. One of the example is the sketch I have shown in the this. This is one of the example of decon architecture. You don't find a regular contemporary style or modern style building or conventional style. You find some buildings which are comparatively seems you out of the box shapes are used in them. So putting using specific architectural style of history or specific theory and practicing it over the design in particular style. Previously, we have discussed about the traditional and modern houses. This is also one of the design theory. Design theory approach is based on architect design and philosophies and used towards the design. Here, he is not addressing the raising issues in the site, but he is answering the project brief and requirement. This seems similar to very much to the conceptual approach. However, it is a bit complex because to follow specific architectural style or a specific architectural movement requires a much deeper and detailed and thorough studies for implementation. Suppose if you are promoting particular design philosophy, you are borrowing or you are making your own particular theory, and without its in-depth knowledge, you definitely could not provide the solution for the building. The produced design will be considered as a poor and vague imitation attempt towards the design solution if you don't have a proper in-depth grip on the design philosophy practiced in the history. So in fourth design approach, we are actually combining the issue and architectural theory to provide you with the design solution. So applying the design theory as a solution to resolve the site issue or any particular issue faced by the building. For this, very common example is sustainable living. For example, in Karachi, Yasmin Lari is one of the famous female Pakistani architects. Keeping in view the poverty of the people, she has tried to construct houses uh, with bamboo construction, economical construction, or as a result that she by using a sustainable material, local material that is easily available, less costly, she is providing them economical houses even for the people which are homeless or slums. And what she concludes from her theory is that she can build a house even into a 60 or 70,000 instead of lakhs or crores we require to construct any house. Definitely, the level of facilities is not equal to the level of facilities we find in our luxury level houses, but at least it's a shelter for a homeless. Sometimes we use bioclimatic architecture. Bioclimatic or biophilic architecture styles are very much impressed from the nature, or we can see it's a biomimicry. Uh, for instance, designing a building for from a analogy or a metaphor of any natural element like the lotus temple in India is one of the example. Its inspiration is taken from a lotus flower, and then sustainable living, sustainable, mostly relevant to that it is environment friendly, cost effective, and easily recyclable materials we used. to construct the buildings. So it's actually we are addressing both issues, the budget of the people and as well as uh, using the site materials, so that the issue and the theory both are combined. And this sustainable design is one of the architectural design theory of significant architects, and it's very much in practice today. So the fourth one is the combination of two and three, amalgamating the two and third approach. We find the approach number 4. It is an attempt to resolve site relevant problems with the help of different design theories previously practiced in the history and even practiced in current scenario. These two combine up and provide us with the solution or with a design solution that is mostly required in your graduate level projects. This approach is mostly used in your graduate level projects. Such solution could be a combination of several other theories that you feel relevant and necessary in order to resolve the raising matters. A building to follow through all these theories as a